hold on to your butts.
Hey everybody, Kara and I are traveling in Europe for the first 2 weeks before we move to Australia. We are currently sailing off the coast. Where is this? Off the coast of Sorrento.
Say that very American line.
Yes. Got a sailboat for today. We're headed to the caves to go swimming. We're gonna have lunch on the boat today, and then we will show you what we're eating as we're traveling, some of the cool sites we're doing, and then we'll show you what is possible as you work to improve your digestive health and hopefully regain a certain level of freedom that allows you to travel and experience a lot of the cool things that you wouldn't be able to experience otherwise when you're really sick. So, all right, see you in a little bit.
So we started our journey in Rome, and after about 2 full days in the heat, we decided we needed to try a new way of seeing Italy, by boat. After taking the train to Naples, we met up with Gianluca, our new friend and captain of the Sailing Sorrento Coast experience, where we went cave swimming, sailing, and had a fair share of eating.
With fresh olive oil.
Okay.
Local olive oil.
Oh my goodness!
Gianluca was awesome, and he served us olive oil baked mozzarella, local tomatoes, and fresh bread, and there's going to be a lot more of the bread later. After that, he brought out penne pasta, again with fresh tomatoes, and added a dash of Parmesan.
If you're in the area, we would highly recommend searching for him on Airbnb experiences because it was really one of the highlights of our trip and he really makes you feel like family.
Okay. All right, we just got done sailing and I got a little bit sunburned. And now we're waiting for the train and then we're gonna go get some food at the hotel.
When we got back to Rome that night, we had huge Greek salads filled with lettuce, cucumbers, cherry tomatoes, bell peppers, and feta, yum, and topped it with vinaigrette and olive oil. Now, normally, lettuce and Greek salads in general are not something that are on the Biome Optima protocol, and still aren't, but once you get to a really healthy level and your gut's feeling good, salads here and there are totally fine, and something I actually really enjoy. So, this was delicious.
Hazelnut, dark chocolate fudge, and Oreo.
Can you give us a spin?
Okay.
Can you give us a spin to show us?
We finished off the day with a healthy dose of gelato, and then the next morning we took an early train to our next destination, Florence, the birthplace of the Renaissance.
Once we arrived in Florence, we immediately found a small restaurant tucked away in one of the back street corners.
Right off the main square, we found Brasseria dei Tre Amici, where I got beef carpaccio, rocket, and parmesan. This ended up being raw, which I don't normally choose. I was actually trying to order something else, but the restaurant owner recommended this. And I thought, well, it's as good a time as any to test the gut, you know, when in Florence, as they say. One of our best travel tips is to look at the restaurant menu before you go. If you're on a strict protocol, if you're following the Biome Optima protocol, then it's not as hard to stay on protocol as it might sound. Really, all you need to find is somewhere that serves vegetables. Great starchy potatoes are a great option. Squash, zucchini are good, and then meats are all good. Carrots are awesome. So it's really not hard to find these options at restaurants. It's more about looking for the right dish.
After this, we took some time to explore our new home for the next couple of days, which, no surprise here, it was beautiful.
So I first got into stable, long-term remission in 2016 after working to improve the composition of my gut microbiome. I read several articles and studies on PubMed that seem to suggest there may be a relationship between the pathogenesis of IBD and a dysbiotic gut microbiome. So I wondered what would happen if I optimized my gut microbiome and reversed the dysbiosis. So I designed and began following my own gut microbiome optimizing diet, which finally allowed me to achieve the level of health I was looking for, which is to be able to consume a full range of foods without bleeding, mucus, urgency, or diarrhea, to have well-formed, solid bowel movements, and to be on no medication. But before I started this whole saga, something I really wish I had done was get my gut microbiome tested. This was not nearly as popular or as widely available as it is today, but what this would have allowed me to do would be able to see what the state of my gut microbiome was by showing me what the different types of probiotic microorganisms were, what the different types of pathogenic microorganisms were, and more importantly, what they were actually doing. So, instead of doing what I did, which was just trial and error, you can get your gut microbiome tested so that you can make informed decisions about what next steps to take. I think the most helpful thing that gut microbiome testing provides is a list of recommended foods that are based off the results of your test and are intended to improve your specific gut microbiome. So each person's gut microbiome is completely unique. So one food that might be good for another person's gut microbiome might not be as good for yours. So that's where gut microbiome testing is so helpful, because it helps to eliminate the trial and error and just gives you a list of recommended foods based off your test that are going to improve your specific gut microbiome profile. The two companies that we work with that are Team Hana sponsors are Viome and Ombre. I think gut microbiome testing is ultra important, and our goal is to provide you with as many resources as possible that can help improve your gut health. So that's why we're working with both companies, that's why we want to tell you about both companies, and then you can make a decision about which one is right for you if you choose to move forward. Okay, so if you are choosing between Viome and Ombre, here are the factors that I think are worth considering. So Ombre is cheaper, it's very user-friendly, it does provide the list of recommended foods, which again is what I think is most important, and Ombre offers some additional supplements that correspond to a specific category that you may fall into based on the results of your test, and I think that's very helpful as well. Viome is more expensive, but they do offer more extensive data. They give you several different scores for inflammatory pathways, other metabolic pathways. They just give a ton of data, which I think is very helpful. They use more advanced testing technology, so that's a factor. And they do offer the list of recommended foods, which again is what I think is most important about gut microbiome testing. And then they offer very individualized supplements based on the results of your test. So those are kind of the differences between Ombre and Viome, the factors that I think are worth considering. So if you're looking for an affordable test, one that is going to get the job done, one that is going to provide a snapshot of what your gut microbiome looks like, and provide a list of recommended foods that are meant to improve your gut microbiome and move it towards eubiosis, then Ombre might be the best test for you. If you are a super gut microbiome enthusiast, you want the most advanced testing technology, you want to know all the data you possibly can about the different microorganisms in your gut microbiome and what they are actually doing, and you are willing to spend more money, then Viome might be the best test for you. Okay, so click this link to get $30 off of your Ombre test, and click this link and enter the code HONEST20 to get $20 off of your Viome test. Alright, get your gut microbiome tested and start making changes to move towards eubiosis.
The next morning we had a long hike planned, so we fueled up with a quick hotel breakfast and set out for the morning.
Terre and I are about halfway through a 6-mile hike, and that's a pretty big thing to be able to do because, as many of you know, if you're sick, it's basically impossible to go on a hike like this and be this active because you pretty much have to move your bowels once every mile, and it's hard to be that active if you're feeling anemic or you're dehydrated, do all that physical activity, so you miss out on a lot of those things. And so this is the kind of freedom that we're talking about, that we want to get people to be able to achieve. So yeah, it's awesome. We're in the middle of Italy, in Florence, and it's awesome.
One of the best things you can do if you're really just trying to improve your fitness is simply start walking. Make it fun by hiking in pretty areas like a park, or you can integrate it into your vacations too by just going to hike to some of the cool places you want to look at instead of taking an Uber or a taxi. Just walk there if you can. In Florence, the bread was originally made without salt and was popularly thought to be because of high taxes, which made salt too expensive. Now it is baked without salt because of tradition, making it different to what we're used to in America, but it was still really good tasting nonetheless. This is an example of what it looks like to eat a meal out while generally trying to stay on protocol. So delicious, but also so simple. Potatoes roasted in olive oil with chunks of beef seasoned to perfection. We can't remember what the name of this is, so if anyone else does, please let us know in the comments. It's totally possible to eat out on protocol, although it may take a bit of extra looking and creativity, but the basic point is that you want to keep it simple, keep it real, and within reason.
The next morning, we set out by train from Florence to Tuscany to an experience like no other at Tenuta Ciudadone, where we were met with fresh squeezed lemonade on the family's back porch.
Francesco and his family live on this full-time farm turned Airbnb that produces wine, olive oil, and fresh fruits and vegetables.
We learned so much from this wonderful couple about sustainable agriculture and what's required to make quality products. After this, we took our freshly picked ingredients from the garden, and each person in our group was given a dish to make. It does not get fresher than that.
I chose to volunteer for the MVP of Italian food, the pasta. The process began with the pasta sauce, fresh zucchini from the garden, and beef. Then fresh tomatoes, basil, and onion blended in the food processor.
That is awesome.
But then when you use this, the trick is you need to add a little bit of sugar or also baking soda.
Baking soda?
We so enjoyed our time getting to know the others in our group and getting to know Francesco and his wife while we were cooking.
This is what you made?
I'm making peach wine,
Ah.
which I thought was going to be the easy job, but then I realized I'm not very good at cutting things.
So after we had all completed our chosen dishes, we gathered around the table to enjoy the most beautiful lunch we had ever seen, and we started with an organic olive oil tasting from the farm.
The real
So I breathe it in and swallow it.
Then breathe in, then swallow.
Fridge. It's not gonna
Put it in your mouth.
Another kind of oil. A lot of Ferraris, an original Bugattis.
It's fun. I've always wanted. So I'm driving to the village.
Did you drive it?
I'm gonna try it right now.
So I'm driving to a village, and I just pull into a
Before it
like,
turns
this little dirt parking lot.
That is really good.
There is really nothing that can bring people together quite like food, which brings us to our next tip. Next time you are attending a social function, bring a food that's on protocol that you enjoy so you know you have something to eat. Or, better yet, if you would rather be able to do something social and control the menu, you can invite people over and either provide basic foods that are on protocol. An excellent meal idea is baked chicken with mashed potatoes and steamed squash, zucchini, and carrots. Or encourage people to bring great tasting dishes that consist of foods that are on protocol, soluble fiber food sources such as starchy tubers like potatoes and sweet potatoes, root vegetables like carrots, savory fruits like squash, sweet fruit, or some sort of meat. Staying on protocol doesn't have to be difficult as long as you're okay with being creative. After our first course, it was time for the showstopper, my pasta, obviously.
And as if all that wasn't enough, it was time for dessert, featuring my wine peaches. Also on the menu, tiramisu and chocolate salami.
After eating way too much, we took the rest of our time at the farm to cool off in the infinity pool before heading back to our home base. The next morning, we started with a couple of museums before our long-awaited chance to try a Florence classic, the Florentine steak.
We started our meal with honey-drizzled specialty cheeses, and of course, what's dinner in Italy without a glass of wine?
We could hear our steak before we could see it, but have a listen for yourself. At the core, this meal is pretty spot on with the Biome Optima protocol. Meat, soft veggies, and potatoes. It's just a bit more dressed up with a glass of wine. Day Class A.
Our steak was scrumptious, and with 1 day left in Italy, we had one major activity left. Hike the connecting trails of Cinque Terre. We started our day with a coffee and corniglia, because the first part of the trails were closed due to rock slides, which actually ended up being okay. We consider ourselves fit people, but this was tough for us due to the extreme heat. I would do plenty of research before committing to the trail because I'd say overall, half of your hike time is stairs or steps.
We're hiking again. It's really pretty and really, really toasty. Nice.
Okay, so I did want to make sure to mention that I was taking the seed probiotic just about every day while traveling, and also anytime we went to a grocery store or a supermarket, I always went and checked to see if they had any bottles of kefir, and if they did have some available, I would grab one, and that was an easy way to make sure I was getting a pretty good source of probiotics on a consistent basis while traveling. Super duper easy, everything else was just following the 80-20 rule. After reaching our final village, we enjoyed a lovely plate of pesto pasta and hit the beach before enjoying our final Italian sunset, and then completed one last thing on our bucket list: eat a pizza.
Here you go.
Is it
Very
good?
good.
Italy was amazing. The people, the food, all of it. With a bit of planning and the 80-20 rule, we were able to stick to our goals and enjoy ourselves. And that's the whole purpose of what we're trying to do. So we want to be able to get people to be able to do this as well.